Doubt. Another insidious foe to human success is doubt. Like inferiority, is a barrier to most anything one sets out to do. Our doubts are traitors, said Shakespeare, and makes us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Doubt is not only the most prolific source of human frustration and defeat, but the greatest barrier to healing and all worthy achievement. Are you sure that you are doing the thing right? Wouldn't it be better to wait until another time? Do you really think you can do it? Do you think you had better take a chance? Did you go into the matter thoroughly? Did you take this into consideration? Did you hear what so-and-so said? These and 1,000 other questions will not only sap the vigor of a man's ambition, but will, if he listens to them and acts upon them, destroy his initiative and keep him from accomplishing anything worthwhile. A double-sided man, said St. James, is unstable in all things. Let not that what man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. The doubters are the procrastinators, the vacillators, the misgivers, the deliberators, the hesitators, the pettifoggers, the floaters and the drifters. They never can get anywhere because they are influenced by every wind that blows. They are always waiting for a more propitious season, during which period of hesitation the self-confident man claims all the prizes. They receive nothing because they lack confidence in themselves and their ability to accomplish what they would like to do. They hesitate and waver because they have no definite goal. They are undecided as to which way to turn. 9 men out of every 10, says Dr. William Matthews, lay out their plans on too vast a scale. And then they who are competent to do almost anything do nothing, because they never make up their minds distinctly as to what they want, or what they intend to be. Hence the mournful failures we see all around us in every walk of life. Doubt says, wait a minute. Take plenty of time. Let someone else take the risk. You'll get a better break later on. Don't be in a hurry. There's too much opposition. You're sticking your neck out. You haven't a ghost of a show. You haven't the capital. You haven't the pull. There are too many obstacles in the way. There's too much competition. The odds are against you. No one else has been able to do that, etc., etc., etc. And then the thing you hoped to do and felt you could do has never begun. You hesitated so long that you lost your courage, your resolution, your tenacity, and your gift. By talking it over with others, you talked it out of your life. The man who is perpetually hesitating which of two things he will do first, says William Wirt, will do neither. The man who resolves but suffers his resolution to be changed by the first counter-suggestion of a friend, who fluctuates from opinion to opinion, from plan to plan, and veers like a weathercock to every point of the compass, with every breath of caprice that blows, can never accomplish anything great or useful. Instead of being progressive in anything, he will at best be stationary, and more probably retrograde in all. It is only the man who carries into his life pursuit the great quality which Lucan ascribes to Caesar, nescia virtus stare loco, who first consults wisely and then executes his purpose with inflexible perseverance, undismayed by those petty difficulties which daunt a weaker spirit that can advance to eminence in any line. If you were to analyze your doubts carefully, you would find that, on the whole, they stem from a sense of your own responsibility, and that is why you do not do what the inner man tells you can do. The antidote, of course, is self-confidence, and the cure is to change your position in the law, to realize that you are dealing with law and not personality. You can accomplish whatever you want to do, achieve anything you want to achieve, if you know that it is God who is doing it and not you. As St. James said, you must ask in faith, nothing doubting. For he that wavereth is like a wave on the sea, driven with wind and tossed. Never say, therefore, that you are not good enough to heal, or that you do not know enough, or that you do not understand enough. Jesus said, what the Son seeth, the Father doeth. These also doeth the Son in like manner. Know that you are dealing with the law, and regard all limiting suggestion as lies. Shut the door on them and refuse to entertain them. Know that truth works independently and demonstrates itself. The only doubt that is fatal is that doubt which you retain and feed. But suppose you are not able to bring yourself to a point of conviction about the thing you are affirming. How will you crystallize the belief in your mind? How will you give it form and power? By firm and repeated repetition of the affirmation, revolving it in your mind until the subjective state of your thought accepts it as true. First, get a clear picture of what you want to do, or the thing you want to bring into your experience, and then make up your mind to accomplish it. Tie it up in your conscience by acceptance, not by yourself, but through the law. Weigh the facts carefully. Consider every angle thoroughly, and then act accordingly. Keep repeating your affirmation in deep faith and acceptance until all trace of doubt is gone. Abide in it, dwell on it, meditate upon it, live with it, breathe it, sleep with it, work with it, until you have induced within your consciousness a definite acceptance of an already established fact. Hold a positive, creative attitude and know that your goodwill will be objectified at that point in mind where your doubt disappears. Know that you are going to succeed. Praise the Lord. Bless the good that is within you. Fill your mind with bright, optimistic, happy pictures. Foresee a glorious, overwhelming success in everything you undertake. Thank God for the success that is coming toward you. Expect the best and look for the best. Stop criticizing, stop finding fault, and stop condemning yourself and others. Plan for big things and make quick decisions. Place no limitations on anything or anybody. When Alexander was asked how he had conquered the world, he replied that he did it by not delaying. And you will conquer your world by the same principle. Be wise today. 'Tis madness to defer. Metaphysicians have many theories on the first step in making a demonstration, but let us take our authority from the Scriptures as contained in St. Mark's Gospel, 11th chapter, 23rd verse. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that these things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatever he saith. Isn't it obvious that if there were no doubts, there would be no need to affirm, no treat or to pray for things, and also that where doubt continue, there is a definite barrier to healing and answered prayer? Then what is the first step in demonstration? To remove doubt, of course. And how will you do that? By having nothing to do with it, by unfolding out of it. Since doubt is nothing but a thought saying that you cannot do this or that other thing, then only a thought of an opposite nature can unsay it. Declare, My word is the law unto that thing whereunto it is spoken, and it will become fulfilled in the right way and at the right time, and all doubt will disappear. Never say, I wish I could do thus and so, or I don't believe I can. Carry the victorious attitude and say, As I let fall the forms of my thought, they are acted upon by principles I believe. This is the law of God, the law of man, and the law of the universe. Never say, if it be thy will, but rather, thy will be done. Then recognize that the divine will is always the best that you can conceive for yourself or anyone else. Be sure of yourself, and doubt can get no hold upon your life. Be confident, be faithful. If it is in accord with the law of God, never give up the thing you have set your heart upon. Never hesitate to attempt the unusual. When you are working with God, never think of yourself as presumptuous in attempting the seeming impossible. Never put off tomorrow what you want to do today. Be superior to fluctuation. Laugh at opposition. See yourself as larger than your calling. Be impervious to contempt and ridicule. Then the universe will not only listen to what you have to say, but it will lay its treasures at your feet. Discouragement. There is probably no other one thing except worry so depressing to the body and mind as discouragement. Discouragement has thwarted more ambitions, destroyed more enthusiasm, stunted more careers, injured more lives, starved more souls, ruined more hopes, wasted more energy, killed more incentive, paralyzed more effort, and made more suicide than any other one thought. It is a disease of the mind which attacks everyone in some form. Everyone is more or less injured by it. It invades us from the outside and from the inside, and when chronic spreads like a forest fire. The person who says he is getting no better is hastening the end which he fears. The discouraged man is the beaten man. He is whipped before he starts. He is whipped because he has made his mind negative instead of positive, destructive instead of constructive. In other words, he has demoralized his whole being. Now stop and think of the damage you do every time you allow yourself to become discouraged. Think of the handicaps you place upon your life. Discouragement paralyzes your efficiency and takes away your resourcefulness, originality, and enthusiasm. It so depresses your mental faculties and robs them of their power that there no longer is any coordination among them. You have disqualified yourself, so to speak, by stopping your initiative and strangling your ability. You have crippled your mentality for the time being, and until this mood has been counteracted by the contemplation of its opposite, joyous expectancy of better things to come, you will be in the position toward life of the proverbial ship without a rudder. Since success begins in the mind, every time you allow yourself to be discouraged, every time you belittle yourself, every time you give up, every time you stop trying, every time you give way to despondency, every time you allow yourself to be influenced by fear, every time you doubt your ability, every time you give into the hopelessness, you are turning away from God. You are driving from you the very blessings you want to demonstrate. You are ruining your possibility by an attitude which is antagonistic to them. You start on your adventure with high hopes, with great enthusiasm and courage. Then some reserve, disappointment, or setback comes and you begin to weaken. Then you wonder if you really are doing the right thing, if you are going on the right track, if God is going to keep his promise, if you are equal to the task, etc. The more power you give such thoughts, the bigger they become. Your hope finally dwindles and you give up. Your resolution is allowed to atrophy because things don't work out as you had planned. Your faith in God, so strong in the beginning, now is nothing more than a myth. What then is the remedy for this insidious disease? Turn yourself around mentally and cultivate that mind from which you came. Emerson said, "What I need is somebody who will make me do what I can." What the discouraged person needs is to be shown that he is not suffering from a condition or weakness over which he has no control, but from an idea operating through his mind, and that since the idea is mental, it is under his control at all times. Since most discouragement comes from within, from a lack of understanding and faith in oneself, then it must be controlled at its source. It must be controlled by saturating the mind with confidence and assurance of good things to come. The discouraged person must be forced to face the light, to change his thought and to alter his position into the light. He must be taught to rely on his higher self at all times and stay away from failures, pessimistic, and all who do not believe in themselves. A man is known by the company he keeps. Birds of a feather flock together, tramps flock with tramps, drinkers flock with drinkers, successful men flock with other successful men. It takes a thief to catch a thief. Water seeks its own level. Misery loves company. If therefore one would be strong, he must seek the company of those in consciousness higher than his own. He must not associate with weak people, weak thoughts, and weak motives. The word discouragement means literally to be separated from courage, from God. It means discontinuance of a power to achieve, to succeed. It is a belief that we are standing alone, separated from God, with the consequent consciousness of weakness and impotence. It is that state wherein the salt hath lost its savor. Life then will be a succession of upsets, good or bad according to our reaction to these conditions. We can cure this condition by reuniting ourselves with God, by focusing all our energies on strength and power. The discouraged person needs to be recharged and retempered with the power from on high. He needs to recapture again the firmness of spirit which meets trouble and problem without fear. So how does one do that? By clearing his mind of everything which stands between himself and God, and by giving free access to the flow of divine power. What the discouraged person needs more than anything else is the consciousness that he is supported by a power greater than his own, and that insofar as he trusts in it and relies on it, it will rush to his assistance in every emergency and in every need. The secret of all dominion and power is contained in all individuals' ability to drive from his consciousness, by an antidote against them, every suggestion of doubt, fear, inferiority, failure, weakness, depression, disappointment, dismay, and discouragement. The fact that two opposite thoughts cannot occupy the mind at the same time means that every man is the absolute master of himself at all times. Paradoxical as it may seem, nothing ever happens to any of us except what happens through us. To be strong or weak, superior or inferior, prosperous or poor is a simple thing of choice. It all depends upon the thoughts we embody in our minds, upon whether our habitual thinking is centered in God or centered in self. A parable. There is a story about the mythical character commonly known as the devil that shows just how discouragement, which men sometimes think is the devil's work. As the story goes, an old farmer traveling in strange lands comes across an odd-looking building, unlike anything that he'd ever seen. He found it to be a warehouse in which were kept the seeds of all thoughts that spring up in man whenever he gets busy planting. There he found certain packets of seed, one marked malice, another hatred, another jealousy, another deceit, another sensuousness, another hypocrisy, another revenge. There was vice of every kind in these packages. Apart from the rest was a pile very much larger than all the others. Strange to say, it was marked discouragement. While the farmer was wondering about this, the devil came along. The farmer questioned him and said, "How is it that you have so much discouragement here? I didn't know that belonged to you." The devil said, "A lot of people don't know it belongs to me, and I don't mean them to. Most people pull these other weeds up at once. Not so with discouragement, for it will grow everywhere. It springs up so quickly and hides and conceals and keeps out of sight those other things until they are strong enough to stand alone. And it is such a harmless-looking weed that very few people suspect I have anything to do with it." After his long speech of the devil's, the farmer thought a moment and said, "You say discouragement will grow everywhere. Will it really grow everywhere?" "Well, no," said the devil. "There is one place where I never could get discouragement to grow." "Where is that?" said the farmer. "That," said the devil, "is in the heart of a man who trusts God." In this little parable we have the secret of overcoming discouragement, the thought that we are inferior, that we have failed, that we are weak, deficient, and defective. This thought that we are helpless and afraid, that everything is against us, that we cannot succeed, and that we cannot do what we want to do. Take God into your consciousness, and you will have not only the power to overcome all trials, troubles, disappointments, and heartaches, but to fulfill every ambition to the letter. Then, in spite of all appearances of the contrary, in spite of the things that you apparently are trying to hold you down, you will carry out your life plan victoriously. It will make manifest the mighty power within you. Say many times each day, "I am strong and of good courage. I turn not to the right hand nor to the left. I am a child of the King of Kings and have nothing to fear. If I always do the best I can in all circumstances, there is no reason why I should ever be anxious about the result. I shall not. I am courage. I am success. Nothing can harm me because I am one with the One. I cannot want. I cannot fail because I am in touch with the infinite source of all life." Big difficulties and little difficulties. "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and have done all to stand." The only difference between big difficulties and little ones is the measure of our spiritual strength, whether our faith in God is shallow or deep, or reserves high or low. Actually, as Emerson said, "There is no great and no small to the soul that maketh all." Big and little are just relative terms like black and white, up and down, east and west, light and darkness. Big and little problems like incurable and curable diseases are simply the results of our personal reaction to the things that happen to us, our way of viewing them. It is always the reaction that determines the result. One problem seems bigger than another because our spiritual resistance is low, because we are not equal to it, not fortified against it, and because we view it through a frustrated and obstacle-possessed mind. When we are inwardly strong and spiritually fortified, big problems appear to us in the same light as little ones. If we knew, as Jesus did, that God is the power of our minds and is working only for our good, then the seemingly impossible, impregnable, and incurable things could be shattered into a million bits. This fact was brought in a striking way by Jesus in his reply to a man who sought help for his possessed child. And because of its application here, I am repeating the incident from my book, Vital Points in Demonstration. "How long has he been like this?" asked Jesus. "From a little child. But if you possibly can, have compassion on us and help us." Jesus, amazed at his answer, was shown plainly in his reply. "Why do you say possibly? Why would you or anyone else ask a ridiculous question? Don't you know that God is the one and only power in the universe, and that he is everywhere equally present? Do you know that you partake of the divine nature? Don't you know that he is that nature? Don't you know the law? Is anything hard for me? Is anything difficult? Why do you say possibly to the one power to whom nothing is impossible, and whose only purpose is to reveal and to fulfill itself in every human need? But listen to Jesus again. Let the maniac's son represent your own big difficulty, and you will see that he was talking to you as well as to the father of the afflicted child. You have run the gamut of material means, doctors, serums, diets, psychiatry, healers, teachers, etc., and your difficulty remains unchanged. Everything else has failed, and you are now back to the source. You are back to the great physician with renewed hope and determination, but still asking the age-old question, if you possibly can, will you help me? You still have a mixture of faith and unfaith, belief and unbelief. You reason that so many others have failed to heal your incompleteness that it hardly seems possible that even God can do it for you. You have unconsciously fallen into a failure complex, and each failure has caused your problem to seem larger than it really is. But why should such a thing happen? Why should your prayers and petitions be so unavailing? St. Paul would say that you had been looking and praying to the unknown God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. If you continue to identify yourself with the problem or personality, then you need never expect to identify yourself with its solution. Spirit and flesh are two and not one. One is truth, the other is a lie. One is powerful and the other is powerless. How can you ever hope to be perfect until you identify yourself with that which is perfect? How can you ever hope to express freedom unless you identify yourself with that which is free? How can you ever hope to express health and wealth without first identifying yourself with the eternal Spirit, which is all? Jesus never identified himself with bondage, sickness, nor with ways and things of this world. He showed the way out of bondage into freedom, out of sickness into health, and out of poverty into wealth, and how to be in the world, though not of all. He stated with emphasis, "No man cometh unto the Father but by me." Not through any system, church, preacher, teacher, theory, or form, but through the self or I of all. Now, who is Paul? Who is Matthew? Who is Mark? Who is Luke? Who is John? Who is Peter? And who is me? Verily, I am God, and beside me there is none else. Thou shalt have no other God but me. Is there any one or anything beside me? Well, the answer is no. There is none else. Then who or what are you troubled about? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you saying? What are you believing? Are you reacting to problems born of duality, or are you considering your own consciousness? What is that to thee? Follow thou me. Is there anyone or anything beside me? Then why are you involved with, worried over, fearful for, troubled with any other? Don't you see how futile it is to be declaring the presence and absence of God all in the same breath? If there is only one, as Jesus said, then don't you see how foolish it is to try to set others right and to straighten them out? Don't you see how puerile it is to declare the presence and power of God and at the same time to be seen difficulties, problems, sin, sickness, ignorance, and limitation? Don't you see that it makes no difference how great or how small your problems may be? Don't you see that you must be all treated in the same way? Now answer me. Which is simpler and easier, to be struggling with persons, problems, and things, or to make the necessary corrections and adjustments in one's own consciousness? You know the answer without telling me. Since consciousness is the cause of whatever comes into your life, and the cause of whatever leaves our life, then all adjustment and healing must take place in consciousness. It must take place by changing the image or belief we are holding. Just as the artist transfers to canvas the landscape which he is beholding, so the troubled mind must get back to the divine basis of the One. It must center itself in the ideal image or state of perfection it wishes to portray. And how shall we proceed in such a matter? First, by taking all thoughts and feelings from the manifestation of evil, which we call Jack or Jill, problem or difficulty, by becoming absolutely thoughtless about it, by dissolving our belief into two powers, and second, by finding a new master center and a new functioning of consciousness. In other words, by letting go and turning within, as when Jesus said, The kingdom of God is within you. It is the unrecognized and unused portion of your own self, the real or perfect Christ-man. Healing and demonstration do not come by changing conditions, nor by adding anything to ourselves, but by revealing the power of our own minds. If there is but one self which is unconditioned, unlimited, unrestricted, and free, then who is in difficulty? Who is conditioned? Who is limited? Who is restricted? Who is bound? Who is hopeless? Who is sick? Who is poor? There can be but one answer. No one. It is only a belief. And how can you prove this? By getting back to the divine basis of the One, and by recognizing that you never had any concern or responsibility for anyone but yourself, that you follow no other than the One. One day, 1 month, 1 year, or 20 years, it makes no difference what the age, history, or nature of your claim may be, or whether you are looking for an answer or solution in the future. Jesus said that you must deal with it now. Now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. You can never go into the past to make an adjustment. You must deal with your present thoughts of the past, and since we can never live in the conditions we are approaching, called the future, we are compelled to also live the future right now. Maybe you are puzzled about some decision you have to make and do not know which way to turn. Maybe you are seeking some bit of advice or the answer to some question. Maybe you are worried about the welfare or health of some loved one or friend. Then meet it now. Remind yourself that I am is all that is of that One. Beside me there is none else. Hold fast that which is good. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not. Ask God. Ask your real self the things you want to know, and he will tell you. Trust God and depend on him, and do not, as Vivian May Williams says, place any more reliance upon the advice of others than you do upon the judgment of your own mind. For what you actually do when you follow the advice of another is to act upon your own conception of his advice. We should rely upon the ideas which come to our consciousness more than we have been accustomed to doing, for ideas are emanations from divine mind, and they are the only means of communication with God. You really cannot boast of an absolute dependence upon God until you learn to respect and rely upon the power of your own mind. Then, how long, O Lord, is it going to take us to learn to do this? How long is it going to take us to learn to apply the simple principles contained in Jesus' lessons on the lilies of the field and the fowls of the air? Must we go on striving, straining, reaching, fearing forever? Yes, I am talking to you, to myself, and to the self of every person. This matter must be settled sometime, and it might as well be settled now. It will be settled when we let go and let God. When we stop talking about failure to realize the truth and the necessity of seeking the truth and realize that we are the truth. Yes, my friend, you are that glorious self now, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent.